Welcome back to part 2 of Am I the A-Hole Interior Design Edition. I've got 3 stories pulled up and I have not read them yet, so let's hope these are good ones. If you're new here, my name is Medora. I use they, them pronouns, and I make videos about home design for girls, gays, and theys. So without further ado, let's dive deep into the depths of Reddit and hopefully make it out the other side alive. Story number 1. AITA for wanting to design my apartment myself despite my girlfriend moving in soon. And this person was voted the asshole. So let's see what the story is. I'm really in doubt if I'm not being an asshole in this whole situation, so I need your help. Here's how it is. Also, sorry for any mistakes, my English is not great. Okay, first of all, before we get into the story, if English is not your first language, I'm gonna need you to stop apologizing for not having good English because you already speak more than one language. That's more than most Americans, so kindly shut up. Back to the story. I, 28 male, met my girlfriend, 24 female, in June, and we instantly fell in love. We have a lot in common, have similar sense of humor, and almost instantly began to spend a lot of time together. She spent a lot of time in my apartment with occasional trips to her home to feed cats, clean, or do some other things that required being there. She didn't move in fully because from the beginning of our relationship, I was renovating an old apartment that my late grandparents left me in their testament, in their will. So from the moment I met her, I said, wait until my new apartment is finished and then you can move in. She agreed instantly, and she said it'll be easier for the both of us. Quick jump to the present, and I've been living in my newly renovated apartment for 2 days, with bed, TV, and 1 bookshelf. And I began to choose furniture, decorations, paintings, curtains, and generally designing the whole interior along with a vision I had for a long time, and which I had before I met my girlfriend. Also, it's worth mentioning that I'm selling the first apartment, and part of the money I will get will be used to remake and modernize the kitchen and bathroom, which are still old-fashioned. Also, everything I want to buy for this new apartment will be bought with my own money, except for the wardrobe, because she has 10 times more clothing than me and she insists on buying it herself. Since the apartment is getting more livable day by day, I asked my girlfriend if she wants to move in already, and she happily said yes, but every time I mention furniture I want to buy, or how I want to arrange it, the color of the curtains I like, or anything like that, she has her idea of how it should be made. I'm constantly saying that I have my own vision, and that I thought about it a lot, and that I really want to do it my way, to the point where I began to feel like an asshole. I don't want to use arguments like, it's my apartment, or I renovated it myself with my own money, or we don't know if we'll be together forever because I love her and I don't want to hurt her feelings. I see, however, that she feels like her ideas are bad. I assume they mean that she feels like my ideas are bad. Not sure what that's trying to say, but I see, however, that she feels like my ideas are bad and that I don't take her opinion into account, even though I agreed on black curtains she proposed, agreed to sacrifice 1 corner of the living room entirely for her plants, or make half of our bedroom her cat's playground. Am I the asshole here? Okay, This really doesn't feel as cut and dry as I was expecting it to be from the asshole designation. So let's read through some comments and see if that changes our mind about anything. My initial thoughts are that if you're moving in with someone, you need to figure out how to take each other's style into account. That's how that works. You need to make sure the space is functional for both of you. You need to compromise on things. Unless you have the exact same design style, which almost never happens, you're going to need to compromise on things. So while I totally understand having a vision in mind before you met this girlfriend and everything, things have changed. That's the fact. Either this design style is so important to you that you're willing to break up with this person and have your home all to yourself, or it's not, and you make some compromises. Those are the 2 options there. This first comment says, you're the asshole, you asked her to live with you, you're sharing a home. I assume you intend for this relationship to work out long term, and you say in a comment that she will be sharing in paying the rent. So you should be sharing ideas on how to decorate it and find something that you both like. Yes, you, singular, own the apartment, but both of you will call it home. At the moment, you're treating her like a guest rather than a partner. Yeah, and I think, in general, that sums it up. I don't think this person is inherently the asshole. I think there just needs to be better communication, and I think that this person needs to sit with their feelings around having this idea ripped away from them, because I can totally understand that. I have a very specific design style. I had a very specific idea for how I wanted my current apartment to be, and it is not that. And sometimes that's just how life works. And yeah, if it were anyone else that you were moving in with, like a friend or a sibling or a random roommate or something, I don't think this would be as big of a deal. But yeah, this last comment said that you're treating her more like a guest than a partner. And yeah, I think that's kind of the assumption. When you're in any sort of relationship that vaguely resembles a romantic, nesting, monogamous relationship, that is considered like a life partnership. And now granted, you can define your relationships however you want, but generally, that type of relationship is viewed both internally and externally as a partnership. As we're in this together, we're doing life together, we gotta communicate and do all the things together. And if you're gonna be living together, you should be communicating about how to make that work for you together. The next comment says, if she's paying her share of the rent and is willing to buy some furniture as well, you should both compromise about the interior design of the apartment. If you don't agree, then you guys should live alone. In fact, if you're so particular about the way that your apartment looks, maybe you're not ready to be living with someone else. And I don't agree with that last statement because I want my own home and I don't want to live with anyone else. And I very specifically want to be able to design it however I want. There are other aspects about living with people that I do love, but in general, I value how my space looks and me existing in my space more than I value sharing that space with someone else. But yeah, again, in general, either you live with her and you compromise about the design, or you don't live with her. I think I was a little too harsh earlier when I said they need to break up, but either you live with them and you compromise, or you don't live with them. It's that simple. Those are your options. Someone said, not the asshole, you need to decorate this apartment with all red flags, because that is all I see here. Honestly, I can't tell which way they mean, if they mean that the girlfriend is giving you red flags, or if the author, the OP, is giving you red flags, but I just thought it was funny. The next one says, you're the asshole when you live in the same place as someone else. It stops being just about how you feel about it. Everyone who lives there should get to feel comfortable in the space. And yes, while that's true, sometimes it's not possible for everyone to feel comfortable in a space. And in that case, you need to find different living situations, right? Make the best of what you have for now and work towards getting out of there so that you can have a space where you do feel comfortable. Someone says, you're the asshole. If you want her to live with you as part of a shared home, she has to get decision-making power on how the home looks. Not for renovations, maybe, since this person owns the place, but for things like paint colors and wall art, absolutely. If you're not ready for that, fine, but then you should tell her that you realized you don't want her to move in. Yeah, and the renovations part is hard because, again, you're living there, but this person owns the place. I feel like I've heard stories about when one person of the partner owns the house or the apartment and the other person is just living there. It creates a weird power dynamic and, like, not in a sexy way. And I feel like it'll only create resentment unless you're, like, both really good at communicating and, like, feeling your feelings and talking about them. So definitely do not recommend getting in this situation where one person owns the place and the other person does not, because that's just a mess. Okay, this next person says, not a big one, but still somewhat YTA. It's your place and your money, so you have every right to decorate it as you please, but you're also inviting someone to share that living space with you and essentially refusing to mix your styles. You can't stay attached to your own personal vision and then insist that your girlfriend be happy living in it. You should blend your visions if you want harmony in your home. Otherwise, you're forcing her to live in an environment she's unhappy with. If you cannot agree, then maybe you shouldn't live together. Yeah, and I feel like that's what most of these are saying. Okay, so I feel like the comments are pretty unanimously decided on this. I don't think that the wording is good. I don't think this person is necessarily an asshole for having a plan, having a vision, wanting to execute that vision. I just think that this person has a decision to make. And honestly, it kind of feels like they're falling into the trap of the cishet relationship ladder, where you're like, you have to move in together and then you get married and have kids and whatever. And because how old did they say they were? Yeah, 28 and 24. They're young. They said they instantly fell in love. Does it say how long they've been together? I don't remember. But yeah, it feels like they're falling into this trap of, like, feeling like they have to move in together to be, like, serious or whatever. That's not necessarily the case. Some people genuinely just want to live together. But if you genuinely want to live with someone, you need to be open to compromise. So I think that this person, I'm going to say this person is not the asshole, but they do have a big decision to make because it sounds like their desires are conflicted. And there is an update. Opie says, all right, guys, thanks for your honest responses. I was living alone for 8 years and I'm used to having my own space, but you're right. She will call this apartment home and she has the right to add things that will make her feel better and things she likes. We will talk about it today and I'll let you know how it went. Thank you. I'm not seeing any extra updates, but apparently they were only together for 5 months, another comment says. So yeah, don't move in with someone with less than half a year of being together. Not, saying that from personal experience or anything, but sometimes it doesn't go the way you want. Sometimes you move in with someone after only knowing them for maybe like 3 months, and then you find out they're a narcissistic, abusive asshole. Okay, it's been months since I originally screenshotted this and put it in my Notion so that I could, plan videos and stuff. And apparently there's a few more comments that are not, you're the asshole. So one says, everyone sucks, I guess. This is a train wreck waiting to happen. You guys met 5 months ago and she's already moving in. And it wasn't sooner only because of renovations. This is all way too fast. And then there's even a not the asshole. They said, it's understandable that you have the vision on this apartment and you've put a lot of time and money into renovating. It's also understandable that she wants input on where she is living. If you already had it decorated and moved moved in, she would likely add touches here and there to make it hers too. Maybe you two need to discuss what you both want and figure out what you can compromise on. Make a list of what you find most important. I'd say you get final say if it's your money, but you do need to take her opinion into account if you want her living with you. You'll face similar arguments all the time living together. And yeah, I think that sums it up. All right, moving on to story number 2. AITA for refusing to rearrange my bookcases after my sister-in-law redecorated my living room. And this person was voted not the a-hole. Already, right off the bat, I'm going to say that I agree, because you're allowed to do whatever you want with your home. Just because someone decorated it doesn't mean that you can't move things around. Like, the whole point of working with a designer or a decorator is to collaborate on making your space feel good for you. And if it doesn't feel good for you anymore, if something has changed, then you can do whatever you want to make it feel better. I feel very strongly about this. I really hate the attitude that people are like, I'm just going to have a designer design something so that it looks pretty and I don't have to think about it anymore. Because, like, it's your home. Things are going to change. You're going to want to move things around at some point. Homes are not static things. They're living. You have a relationship with them. They're like, everything is constantly changing. The only constant in the universe is change. I feel very strongly about this, apparently. All right. I, 29 female, recently allowed my sister-in-law, Tina, 31 female, to help decorate my living room as she's an aspiring interior designer trying to build her portfolio. I gave her full creative control over everything except my antique bookcases, which hold collections I've been building for years. When Tina finished, the living room looked amazing overall, but she rearranged all the furniture, including moving the bookcases to a different wall for better feng shui. I immediately moved them back because her new placement ruined the organization system I have for my books and knickknacks. Tina got upset when she saw that I had changed the bookcases back. She thinks I undermined her decor vision and didn't appreciate the thoughtful new layout. My brother agrees and said I was rude overriding Tina's work, but in my view, I never agreed to let her touch the bookcases. Plus, their setup is meticulously curated. Am I wrong for altering the one part of the makeover I wasn't on board with to begin with? I still thanked Tina for her amazing work overall. I was so confused about her reaction. I mean, it's my apartment after all, and I just gave her a chance to build her portfolio. AITA for refusing to keep my sister-in-law's new bookcase arrangement as part of her living room makeover for me. My family says I disrespected her design expertise, but I think she overstepped by moving my stuff without permission. I have questions. So, where'd it go? She says, I gave her full creative control over everything except my antique bookcases. What specifically did you say? Did you say, do not move these bookcases anywhere else? Or did you say, yeah, you can have full creative control, just don't do anything with bookcases? Because I can understand the thought of like, okay, I won't do anything like within the bookcases, but I'll just move the bookcases. I can see that being a thought that maybe Tina had. But yeah, no, OP is definitely not the asshole for moving the bookcases back. I am curious to read the comments and see if there's any more information about what specifically was communicated, because if there's something you really don't want anyone touching, you have to be very specific. You have to be like, this thing, you cannot move it, you cannot move anything inside of it, you cannot touch this. Leave this exactly where it is. And if you don't say that, sometimes some people will take it to mean, you know, a slightly lighter version of that. Like if it's really important to you, you really have to stress how important it is to you. That being said, Tina's reaction is not going to get her very far in the world of design. You have to be open and respectful of what your client needs, because you are working for them. In this specific case, I think it would have been more helpful to the situation, to the family dynamics, and to this person's design portfolio to say, hey, I understand you don't want me to move your bookcases. Can I move them for the photos? And then we can move them right back. I think that would have been a more acceptable thing that OP probably would have agreed to ahead of time, because obviously for portfolio photos, you want it to be something that like looks presentable and nice in the context of a photo on someone's screen. And like, that's why people style things before they shoot pictures of their home or do a home tour video. But anyways, let's read some comments. Okay, this first one says, not the asshole, she didn't listen to her client. She could have taken pictures for her portfolio, but put the bookcases back immediately after. And feng shui? Really? That's BS. I don't think the feng shui bit is BS necessarily. It could have just been an excuse, but also maybe the bookcases were in a really bad spot. I don't know. Your sister-in-law and brother and your family are conveniently ignoring that this is your house, your stuff. You get the final word, not her. Never her. Yeah, and I think that's what it boils down to. It's your space. A designer should never make you do something you don't want to do. It can be good to like let go of your control of the space and allow a designer to like push you in ways that you might not have thought about before. But again, a designer should never do something that you explicitly told them that you don't want them to do. Someone responded to that saying, if one aspires to follow any creative field, they need to learn to compromise their vision for their clients' sakes. Otherwise, soon they'll be out of clients. And then someone responded saying, when I was in school for art, my professor always chose our least favorite vision because he said that's the one a client will choose and you have to make it work. And yeah, I think this whole story is a weird combination of like yes, it's a creative field, but also it's a business and you need to learn to work with your client. This is a collaboration more than anything, and if you don't work together, it's not going to turn out well. Someone says, yeah, it's not zen if it bothers the resident, which is very true. Someone commented about the TikTok guy, saying there's a guy on TikTok who walks through how to rearrange rooms according to the principles of feng shui. I'm not entirely sure I buy the mechanism, e.g. too much energy by the door, but I'm perfectly happy to admit that his suggestions for how the furniture might be set up tend to result in nicer room layouts. Of course, there's nothing like just trying a couple layouts and sticking with the one you like, and OP is entirely entitled to do that in their own home. Yeah, I love the feng shui guy on TikTok. I am blanking on his name at the moment, but I definitely do believe in feng shui, like generally, or at least like the idea of energy, like pulling up in the corner of a room and then you put a plant there to like make the energy flow better, or like not having a desk facing away from the door to the office because the energy from the door and you won't be able to see behind you, stuff like that, like the command position and all that. There's definitely some validity to that, and there are so many more reasons why people might make home design decisions that isn't that. There's a lot of other things that you need to take into account, and that is only one of them. Someone says, this post reminds me of an infamous Trading Spaces episode where the room they were redesigning had oak floors and the designer wanted to paint the floor black. Friend kept telling the designer not to do it and that the owners would be furious. Designer did it anyways. Didn't paint the entire floor, but painted a large, wide border around the room in black. When the owners came in, the first thing they saw was black paint and they were like, you need to remove that now. OP gave sister-in-law an opportunity to design the room and take pictures for her portfolio. That is all that is needed. It is not like people are going to visit OP's apartment and see the real thing. Yeah, and I think that's absolutely true. And again, it comes back to the idea that like, even if you design someone's space, they can change it whenever they want. They can restyle it. Life circumstances change. Maybe you move in with someone, like from the first story. Maybe you have a baby or you get a pet. Things change. Needs change. Maybe you start a business and you don't have space for an office, so you need to put a desk in your living room. Things change. Nothing is ever permanent, and I will die on that hill. This person says, not the a-hole. You told her, do anything but leave the bookcases alone. She moved the bookcases. You moved them back. It wasn't a thoughtful new layout if you didn't pay attention to what the client thought. If Tina intends to seek work as a designer, she will need to pay closer attention to a client's requirements. And yes, and if she wants work as a designer, I understand wanting to move the bookcases to a better spot for the pictures. Again, this should have been communicated about ahead of time and asked if it was okay to do this for the pictures. What I have an issue with is that this wasn't communicated about ahead of time, and then Tina got upset. Oh, this person says she moved the bookcases, which would mean taking all the books out. Did she replace the books exactly as they were? I would be so pissed if someone rearranged my books. Decades worth of being pissed off. Rearranged them after being told not to touch them, and then someone responded saying, I get mad at myself if I rearrange any of my books because then I can't find them. And yeah, that's a really good point. It wasn't clear what was on these shelves. Sometimes people put a lot of like knickknacks on shelves. But yeah, especially with books, if you're a book lover, that makes a lot of sense that you would be really pissed off if someone not only like moved all of your books, but like switched them around and put them back in weird places. That is not a good situation to be in for anyone involved. Oh no. Someone says there was a home design show where the incompetent idiot designers, tell us how you really feel, rearrange a 2,000 plus volume library by color. The homeowner was profoundly not happy. Yeah, understandably so. Absolutely not. Someone said, design doesn't occur in a vacuum. A big part of being a designer is listening to the client. You said you didn't want the books/bookcases disturbed. Her job was to work your needs/wants into her design, not the asshole. This is a big lesson for her, and I hope she takes it to heart. Yeah, I'm not finding any more information about what specifically was communicated. I'd love to see some like email screenshots or something, but the OP did say, I'm so grateful to Tina for the beautiful makeover. I only moved the bookcases back because that system is highly personal. Everything else looks amazing in the new space. So yeah, I'm so curious about what was specifically communicated. So yeah, I think I'm taking a gentler, more nuanced approach and saying just like everyone sucks here or everyone just needs to communicate better. I feel like that's the major theme in all of these Am I the Asshole things, especially for interior design. You just need to communicate better. That's it. Someone commented, Tina is an aspiring interior designer. She isn't Elsie DeWolf, Dorothy Draper, or Kelly Wearstler, so perhaps she should cool her jets and concentrate on learning all about how to be a good interior designer. One of the most important skills is superior communication. As an interior designer, you'll be expected to effectively communicate your vision to your clients and practice excellent listening skills. A good designer also needs to be adaptable. Tina does not appear to have developed these vital skills. Before I read the rest of the comment, part of learning how to do this stuff is by doing it. I will say that much. So I think that sometimes you do need to lean on friends and family for your first few designs and just kind of like learn that way. But yeah, developing these skills that seemingly have nothing to do with like the actual design themselves, but are critical in working with clients, that is definitely something that should be at the forefront of this person's mind. They continue saying, Tina also needs to grow up and become less defensive. She can't go tattling to her husband and family, expecting them to defend her each and every time a client doesn't appreciate her vision. If she does that, word will spread quickly and she won't have any clients. Word of mouth can make or break a professional reputation. I doubt that she would necessarily go quote unquote tattling to her husband and family and expect them to defend her whenever the clients don't appreciate her vision. I think they just did that because this was a family situation. I don't think that's something that would like happen with a normal client, which is why I don't really work with family, because working with family is just always messier than you want it to be, and it's almost never a good time. Continuing on, she was fortunate you allowed her as much freedom as you did. You had one very specific, non-negotiable, and she ignored it and disrespected you. Again, I want to know what specifically was communicated. Despite what your family believes, your reaction and actions to return your bookcases to the original locations in your apartment were justified. They are apparently overlooking that she is an aspiring decorator, not a well-seasoned, well-regarded designer. Not the asshole, you sound like a very gracious and appreciative woman who unfortunately appears to be saddled with a group of a-holes. Again, it just keeps coming back to, I really want to know what specifically was communicated. Like, what words were used? Were you just like chatting when she was like over at your house one day? Did you like put together a contract? Like, what was the communication like? And honestly, I think this is even more forgivable because she is just an aspiring decorator, designer, whatever, and she's not a well-seasoned, well-regarded designer. Because anyone who is well-seasoned and well-regarded would not do this, as long as it was communicated well ahead of time. She is aspiring to do this, which means she is very much still learning. So like, I will give her a little bit of grace for that, but not much. Just a quick break to say that this was probably the worst video to do this weekend, like from a business perspective. I really should have thought ahead and done like a video that related to Amazon favorites or something, because it's Black Friday this weekend. Although I hate Black Friday and I'm really not trying to give Amazon any more money. But also I am working on saving up money for a car that like actually functions. So if you happen to need anything off of Amazon, or if you've been thinking about buying 2pages curtains for a while, I would be extremely grateful if you would use my affiliate links below. And if that's something you're able to do, I just want to say thank you for supporting a small trans autistic creator this holiday season. Moving on to the third and final story. AITA for disagreeing to throw out furniture my dad had custom made. This sounds tricky, and I'm not sure what to think just based on the title alone. They were voted not the a-hole, so let's see what they say. TLDR, wife who loves to change decor frequently is demanding that we throw out a loft bed my dad had custom made. Where to begin? My dad made a loft bed with strong wood. I stained it and put it together in his room. I took a slide from the playground outside and attached it to the bed. My son loves the slide and the bed. He's not on it for hours every day, but will get some enjoyment. The wife hates it. Says it looks like a prison with barriers at the top. Says it sits too high and she can't decorate the way she wants. Says the slide takes up too much space. Says getting a small bed, same length and width, just not a loft, will be better. One night, as I'm spending time with my son, she walks in saying how we're going to trash the bed. She doesn't ask me my opinion nor my son's. She just says it and tries walking away. I say we won't throw it out. She continues making the demand, and I stand my ground knowing that a fight will soon come. She begins exploding, saying how I only do things I want to do and leave her out of the decision. I tell her that she's ungrateful and stuck up and that she should appreciate the immense sacrifice that my dad put into this bed. She tells me she never asked for it and that I'm ridiculous for making my father come across the state to build this bed when we should have just ordered the loft/slide bed from Amazon. I tell her she should have spoken up when my dad and I had showed her exactly what we were going to do before we put all this work into it, and that to let us go through with all of this work and then want to throw it into the trash is horrible. The bed on Amazon had reviews of paint falling, the slide hurting kids, and the slide being slow. The custom bed is a bit high, and the design is slightly off, but I ignore that because it was a gift that I and my dad had put a lot of work into. She makes other jabs that fall apart. In the end, she says that she always wanted to decorate the room for our son and for our upcoming baby, but that she can't with the loft bed because it's too big. She changes decor very frequently, even if it belongs to our son. She moves furniture around constantly. I'm the type that would prefer to find the perfect appearance and leave it that way for a while. She asked to make peace the next day. We did, and then I brought up in a calm manner, saying how much these things meant to me, and that we shouldn't have screaming fights over such wonderful gifts that my dad has given. She simply said we would talk later. The next morning, she has this look on her face and I can tell she's sour. I'm pissed. It feels manipulative. It just seems like she's only in it to please her own eyes, and explodes if it doesn't go her way. And then I wonder if I suck at telling her side of the story, if I'm just too good at playing victim, or if telling her to be grateful ungrateful is me not really listening to her. I don't know. These petty fights happen too often. AITA. Edit 1 is the bed link, so I'm gonna go look at the bed link. Edit 3 is a picture of the room. So let's go find that. Okay, so this picture is the picture of the bed in the room, and they said that they changed the position so it no longer blocks the door. I will say, this is way too big for this room. The slide in particular, it looks like you can barely even get through the door. So I'm curious how that happens. I don't know. I see both sides because this is definitely taking up the entire room. It feels like there's not much that you can do. I think what I would do if I were in this wife's position would be to go with kind of a camp theme, like a summer camp theme, and work with that, because with the wood and the green slide, that's giving very summer camp. Okay, here's the picture of the changed layout. It doesn't look great, but it's at least not blocking the door. All right, OP continues saying, things are hard right now. The wife has asked me to sleep downstairs, the wife, for a few weeks since she's worried about the baby in her womb. Her stomach was hurting after the flight. She started it and I went with it. I couldn't really say how much as she really wasn't doing well. I began to feel like an a-hole at this point. I let it go, washed the dishes, put a portrait she wanted on the wall, and a few other things. I'm praying she feels better soon and that we can have a normal conversation. I'm really thankful for everyone's advice and I plan to apply what I've learned here. Edit number 4, I feel like garbage. I really appreciate every comment. Some have gone into immense detail, helping me to see what I'm doing is toxic, exalting a gift higher than my wife's opinion, and trickle-truthing, which more easily makes me play victim and puts her in an awful light without you understanding the full story. I'm realizing the jerk I've been, especially in this post and in my dark comments. I'm apologizing to her. I'm still going to take every critique regarding compromise, splitting rooms, etc., but I'm realizing what I need to change. Thank you. Okay, so clearly things have happened in the comments, so let's go read the comments. My initial thoughts are just that, like, I can see both sides, right? Like, this is a gift, not just a gift, but a handmade gift that is useful, that both you and your son love, so it makes sense to keep it. And some people, especially parents and especially wives, tend to be very interested in designing their kids' rooms, because there will come a point where the kid is going to take over control of designing their room, and then the mom or the parents will no longer be in on that. So she's probably having a lot of feelings about, like, losing control of things and stuff like that. What it always comes back down to is people need to communicate more. They need to understand what they're feeling, why they're feeling it, communicate that, and work towards compromises together. Okay, this first comment says, it sounds like your son is at least old enough to express likes and dislikes. Therefore, how his room looks should largely be up to him. Not the asshole unless you're both planning on sticking a newborn in with the older child, which is selfish. Oh, and then OP responded saying, thank you, we have 2 rooms upstairs and 2 downstairs, so plenty of rooms. It would be great if we had 3 rooms on the same level, but we don't. And I'm not sure if our 5-year-old, will be 6, will be comfortable being alone downstairs. Short of moving to a new home, we're going to have some awkward moments that I'm not sure how to fully tackle just yet. Someone responded saying, put the nursery downstairs, it'll be more convenient during the day, get a bassinet for your room for the first few weeks. Pack and plays are also an option as well. That should give your son almost a full year to grow up a bit, so you're more comfortable with his room being downstairs. But your son is old enough to decide what he wants his room to look like. Pretty soon he'll decide for himself that he wants a different bed. And when it's time for it to go, donate it, or save it for the next kiddo. Help give your son a voice. Bonus, your wife gets to redesign a couple times. OP responded saying that is immensely helpful. I'm not sure if we'll want the baby to be alone downstairs, but a baby monitor would certainly help with that. Oh, I didn't know this. The other person responded saying, they make amazing baby monitors now, complete with sensors that you put under the mattress to monitor breathing and heart rate and have alarms that go off. They aren't expensive, anywhere from $50 to $200, and you can even tie them into your phone. Check out the latest baby products. Things are always changing. You guys should be able to find all sorts of other solutions to help. That's incredible. I didn't know about that. That seems like a very good use of technology. Very convenient and aimed at saving babies' lives, which I think we can all get on board with. Yeah, someone says baby can sleep in your room at night and use the nursery during daytime naps while you're downstairs in the living space, which makes perfect sense. Okay, this is going off topic, I feel like, because I feel like the original problem was the bed, and now we're talking about moving rooms. Someone says, not the a-hole. It should really be up to your son when he transitions to a new bed without pressure from either parent. You do need to come to terms with the fact that he will eventually outgrow it, and at some point you'll need to get rid of it or put it in storage, but that's a decision for another time. I think your wife is the a-hole, mostly because she demanded it be taken down without discussing it with you, and I'm assuming that you actually asked her opinion during the planning phase of the building of the bed, as opposed to, this is what's happening, hope you don't mind. If you didn't ask for her opinion before the building started, then you are both the a-hole for lack of communication. Yeah, I don't like the way that the wife handled it, and she is currently pregnant. Not that that excuses everything, but oh, okay. OP responded saying, I did communicate with her beforehand. She just said, okay, and that's fine. She said she does that pretty often on a variety of things, but then boomerangs back to it later. I made it a point that that's not okay. Yeah, I think my opinion so far is just that the parents seem to be fighting over this like way too much, and the kid is 5. That is old enough to like want to start decorating your own room. Obviously, it'll result in some questionable design decisions, but this kid is 5. You shouldn't be expecting gorgeous design decisions from a 5-year-old. You should be expecting for the child to be playing and learning and growing and developing and like finding their own personal likes and dislikes. And this is a great way to do that by letting them design their own room. What's not a great way to do that is hearing your parents fighting over your room design and you feeling like you have no say in it. Okay, well that's interesting. Someone said, please seek marriage counseling sooner rather than later. Your marriage will not last long if you do nothing. And the OP said, we tried once. She gave up as soon as the psychologist disagreed with her that we should separate when angry and come back to talk about it later when you're calmer. She believed we needed to dish things out in the heat of the moment, which is a reason for why we fight like this. Yeah, that's a situation. That seems more like what the root of the problem is, because it's not about this bed. I can tell you that much. It's not specifically about this bed. The two of them have very different communication styles, and I question whether they should have gotten married and have kids in the first place. But that's not what this post is about. But yeah, bringing it back to the bed, people are generally saying things like, you know, maybe put the bed in storage instead of just throwing it away, maybe sell it. But even that can start to like feel kind of weird because then that's like an awkward conversation saying like, you know, don't ever give us anything because it won't last long in our home. Yeah, I'm torn between like the dad making the bed was a really sweet gesture. If the kid likes it, the kid should keep it. And also I understand the mom feeling like she doesn't have any control and wanting to like have some control in styling this kid's room, but like your kid is old enough that they deserve to figure out what they like. Someone suggested painting the bed, which could perhaps soothe the wife's redecorating bug, which I think is definitely a possibility of an idea. Yeah, OP never said specifically like what it was about the bed that the wife couldn't decorate around it. They just said that the wife like was like, no, I can't decorate around this. So maybe painting would work? I don't know. Oh, this is a good point. Someone said, it just occurred to me, but is she the one changing the bedding? Because making up the top bunk in a bunk bed is the worst, especially when pregnant. And Opie said, she is. Thank you for noting that. I will try to be better help there since it is pretty frustrating to change the bedding on it. That is a very valid point. Making beds in general is not necessarily the most exciting task, especially if your bed is in a corner or up high, and especially if you're pregnant. That could definitely be contributing to her feelings around that. Someone basically wrote an entire novel as a comment here, so I'm not going to read all of that, but I will read part of it. Half the stuff in your original post is honestly irrelevant to the actual conflict between you and your wife. Doesn't matter that the Amazon bed is cheap. Doesn't matter that you stain the wood for the clunky bed. Doesn't matter that your wife loves redecorating. What matters is that you feel embarrassed about the notion of trashing the bed. You put work into it, but more importantly, your father put work into it. You seem really image-oriented based off of your short post here, so I'm assuming that you're over-dramatizing the value of this bed. Immense sacrifice. In hopes that you won't have to explain to your father that the bed is not compatible with the amount of space in the room. But none of what I just mentioned is your wife's fault. That's on you and your dad for poor design choices. Your wife's fault in this stems from her wanting to make a decision on your behalf, but I am assuming this is a reasonable decision for her to make because the room is to accommodate 2 children and not 1. You're choosing not to see her point of view, and you're honestly making her out to be a shitty person on the internet. If this is an accurate depiction of you and your wife, sure, but if not, you may need to rethink how you portray your relationship. This is a you're the asshole for the fact that she's pregnant and thinking about the baby. You're obstructive, and you can't admit to your father that the bed didn't end up working out. It's also a horrible loft bed. You really minimize how ugly and huge it is in the text. I mean, I've seen uglier loft beds. Loft beds in general are kind of just ugly. There's no way to make a loft bed not ugly without having it like completely custom and built in, I think. So And then OP responded to this person saying, you have my upvote. Thank you for pouring in so much effort here. You're right on pretty much everything you said. And then they go on a little bit and talk more. But yeah, thank you for your input. Some people like it and others don't. But I realize enough now to talk to her better about it. So hopefully this post will have sparked some better communication in their relationship, because it doesn't sound like it has the strongest foundations, and hopefully they can figure something out. This is an interesting take. Someone said, "I didn't read biased representation. Your wife is out of line. It's better that you put a stop to this sort of heavy-handedness now before your kids are teens with no identity, because they say, 'No, thank you, I like the green one,' and their mom goes, 'Well, you're having the red one I liked anyways.'" By the way, these sort of moms set their kids up to be bullied because they can't properly assert themselves at home, which is a fair take. I think it's taking it a little bit too far, but yeah, if you are not allowed to like have opinions as a kid growing up and like show that and speak your truth and all of that, it's definitely not a good starting point for raising your kid in a healthy way. Apparently OP said that he has worried about the bully part. He said, "She makes it a point to him to stand up against bullies, but I worry that some of her conduct contradicts that." Okay, so final thoughts. Along with basically every other story I've reacted to, it all comes down to communication. And usually it isn't actually about the home design thing, and it's more about interpersonal relationships. So focus on having healthy relationships where you can actually communicate with each other, and your home design process will go a lot smoother. I am thinking of redesigning some rooms that I found on Reddit via the subreddit r Design My Room. So let me know if you're interested in that, because as much editing as that will be, I am very excited about that. And it's definitely a little more actual home design rather than just like telling people to communicate better. If you want to see more videos like this, do all of the YouTube things that tells the algorithm to show you my videos, and check out my Patreon and website if you're interested in supporting this channel or getting live one-on-one design sessions with me. Drink some water, move your body, and get off of YouTube. Bye.